This is a practice video midterm for the HTML CSS course. My name is Dave Sleman. First, unzip this zip somewhere convenient on your computer, perhaps the D drive. The way this video is set up, first you will see the final product. Then we will walk through each task, explaining it first, then allowing you time to try it. After you've tried it, you can see how I ended up doing the task. I hope this approach works. Let's get started. Okay, here's a run through of the product that you're going to be producing. So as you can see, it's got a header. This is an H1. It's got several tabs, and when I mouse over them, notice that the hyperlink turns white and becomes underlined. Each tab, if you like, has an image. The images are in the images directory of the starter kit. And when you go to the different tabs, different activities happen on the screen. So there you've got the check marks. You've got a longer list. You have the text for that in the starter kit. There's also a go to bottom, which gets you to the bottom really quick. Probably should be a go to top, but there isn't. And there's a fall, which just gives you a picture of a tree. Click on the tree, nothing happens. So that's the job at hand. There's also a footer on every page, and that footer has the same thing every time. And just one more thing, notice the different shades of gray in the taskbar here. The first one is a very light gray, which is the background where my mouse is. The selected file has a very dark gray. That shows the file that's currently visible below on the screen. When you mouse over, you get a medium color gray. These colors are given to you on the test paper, but it's good to note that there's 3 different colors. Also here, this is a nested list with different capital letters and solid dots. Again, there's check marks here, a long passage which is centered, every line is centered, and everything is double spaced, and a tree that's float right. This is what things look like after you do the unzipping. Best to put this unzipped folder on the root of the D drive. The first directory that you see is the images directory. You'll notice that these 4 icons or smaller images are going to be part of the nav. This green underscore checkmark.jpg will be used in the summer hyperlink, and at the bottom we have tree.jpg. The test paper itself is right here, and this gives you a description of what you need to do for the midterm. It's best to print that out. The rubric is the marking scheme, but it's also a convenient checklist, and it might be your best guide for following step by step through. If we take a look here at the winter.html file, it's here on the left. You have a header section, and right here is where you're going to end up putting the external file, the style sheet, main.css. You're also going to change this to your name and student number. You'll notice in the body that the header or the title of the document has a container called header. The nav is located right here, and you can see the bottom of the nav there. And there's a list, an unordered list, and then there's list items. So if we zoom in on one of these list items, each list item has an anchor, and then it's got a figure container, and the image goes in there, and it's got a fig caption as well. So these containers will allow you to style the individual nav elements. The style sheet that you're given really has default set to 0 margins and padding, and it's got a little information there with respect to the body. So the body will be 80% in the middle because you've got 10 and 10 on the left and the right. This is where you start, and the first thing to do would be to follow these steps. I would just do this one first, this one second, this third, fourth, and so on until you finish, until you do this, which is the diagram I've got on the other side. So pause the screen right here and see if you can make that happen. Okay, so we're going to do the yellow steps, number 2 to 4, and we'll begin first by defining the external style sheet. So that is done by putting that in place. Also, too, if we take a look, this is where we are now. Let's just save that and have a look. And this is where we want to get to. So that's the goal. All right, so if we take a look to see how we got there, we're going to follow this rubric pretty closely. All right, so the first thing is this line here. We're going to put under the header a 50 pixel top margin so that seasons is 50 pixels down, and we need to center seasons. So that's going to be done here with this text centering. Next, we're going to go and configure the nav. So the nav needs to be 80%. So you might think this is a mistake at 100%, but in fact it isn't, because the body itself is going to be 80% in the middle. So if we want the nav to be 80% of the browser's window, it's got to take up 100% of the body. The color, the light gray, is going to be C0, C0, C0. Don't forget the pound sign. The top margin is going to be 100 pixels, which is this line right here. And the height is going to be 170, which is this line here. Now, with respect to the list items, we want to get rid of the dot or the square. So this is where we put the list style equal to none. That's this line here. To get things to go horizontally, we're going to float all the list items left. And that's this item right here. So let's save that. Let's have a look and see what it looks like. And that's exactly where you want to be. Okay, the next steps are 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to start with what we have here on the right. And we're going to move to this. So you can see 10% margin on the left here, 10% margin on the right here, and we're going to pull that off. So we'll start with this and start doing these steps. So at this point, pause and give it a try, these steps, and then resume to see how I ended up doing it. Okay, so here we're back, and here are the steps that we're going to do. Okay, here's the solution that I've come up with. So let's just take a look at this nav, this outside frame, if you like, and the inner gray, forgetting the tab elements. So I've made a change here. I've taken out the width 100%, and I've put in these two lines, which is essentially the same thing. The background color and the top margin, the 100 is right here, and the 170 is from here to here. We already had that. So I've added the padding at 5%, which is this amount right here, and 5% right over on this side. I didn't quite get it lined up exactly in the middle, but maybe you will be able to do that. We have some padding at the top, 20, and at the bottom, sorry, the padding at the top would be right in here, 20, and the padding at the margin at the bottom I have at 20. Then I've got the frame around it, and then I've got the rounded corners. So that's the outside nav here. Also, too, a good thing to do is to take advantage of the inspector tool. So if you right-click on the background and go inspect, it's very, very easy to use. I like to put this on computed right here, and this is the HTML document. This is the body, so that orange is the body, and you can see that the body's the whole 100%. And then, sorry, if you click right here on this nav, you can see the nav is green, and you can also see the dimensions of the nav in here. And so the tool is very helpful, and you can go right to the list items and go right down into the list items and see the anchor. So there's how the anchor works, and you can actually see the dimensions right in here for the anchor and stuff. So this is a very good tool to use as much as possible. Okay, the next thing is I improved each one of these anchor elements, as it's called, is controlled in the nav anchor, and we need 5% between them, and so that's accomplished with the left and right margin of 2.5 each. We have a height up and down here, 130, and the border. I also have the border radius, and I turn off the underline underneath the anchor and center the text. This was done for the purpose of getting rid of the bullets. And the caption, this is all about the caption right here, the winter. It's black, that's the font, it's twice the normal size, and it's centered. So if we just check off the items here, if I scroll up to the top here, we're setting the padding to 5%. That's right in here. Setting the padding along the top to 20%. It's done here, and so on. For the styling of the A anchor, that's done in this section right over here. And right here I meant. And here are the items that I've done in order, and they're all listed right here as well. Then styling the nav list items is done in number 7, and the caption, these items are done in number 8. Okay, next we're going to do 9 through 15. So we're going to start with this, which is where we left off. If you hover over here, nothing happens. And what we want to do is get to this. So this will be, once we click on it, these are the different things that are on the test paper that you can look at, and this is the functionality that needs to happen. Go to the bottom and the tree. So at this point, you can pause the video and start going through 9 to 15. Okay, so in doing number 9, the hover, when the mouse is hovered over a list item, change the color to the background color to the A4, 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 and change the text color to white and add an underline. So this is what I've got. There's the text color going to white, there's the background color, and there's the underline. Now, if we run this, I run into a little problem. The winter is supposed to be white, and it's not quite white. Everything else is working with respect to the hover. So what I decided to do to fix it was to take out the color here and put it in the A. And when I did that, and things seem to be working as they should. Now on to number 10. So we're going to build a class called selected, and it's going to be setting the background color to 6E, 6E, 6E. Also in number 10, I'm going to add a footer into the HTML document. So here is my class, and I'll be calling that class shortly. And in the HTML document, this is where I've put the footer. Now the footer won't be styled yet, and also to call that class, this is where we're going to want to put it, right in here. Now I'm putting it here because I'm in the winter file, and if this item is selected, I want the class to run. So let's run this and see what we get. So we're in the winter file. That's why it looks like that. There's my footer. It's not quite done yet. If I go to these other files, they're not even in existence yet. Next, we'll style the footer. So here I've got the footer, and I'm putting a black line above it and giving space above it of 50 pixels. So if I run that, it looks like this. So there's the line above it, and here are the 50 pixels from the nav. Okay, step 11 is easy. I take the winter.html file and copy it to 3 other files. So I'm going to do that in DOS. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm just going to change each one of these names. This will be called summer. Spring. Fall. So there they are, fall, spring, summer, and winter. I'm going to go into each one. So there's the fall one, the spring one, the summer one. I already have the winter. And I'm just going to put a little comment or marker in. Okay, so I've completed the copies, and in each file, we're looking at the winter file right now, I've put the winter tips. In the spring file, I've got the spring cleaning checklist. In the summer, I have in summer, and nothing in the fall. So if we have a look at that, it looks like this. And if we click on each one, things seem to be working okay. Just a little bit more to do. Let's conclude. So numbers 12, 13, 14, and 15 all have local edits to do in each of the files that we've defined. So let's take a look at winter tips. So if we take a look at winter tips, notice here that we don't have this common to the other files, so we can embed it in the current file. So these are the steps to make the nested list got the right attributes that are being specified in the test sheet. And if we go down to the bottom, this is the text for the winter tips. So that's that one. On to the spring. If we go to the spring, it's the same kind of thing. These are the style points that we need for the spring. You can see the green check mark here being defined. And if we go to the bottom, these are the edits that we put in so that the spring cleaning checklist comes up properly. If we go to number 14, this is the summer. Now this one's a little bit more involved. Again, you have a local embedded style sheet. We have a class. We define some further elements, and we have something going on at the bottom. And we make a change here to green for the go to bottom. If we go down to here, this is we actually introduce a div in order to make this all work. And last but not least, we have the fall. So for the fall, this is where you just have the tree, and we have a float right class. And if we go down to the bottom, this is how we put the tree in place. One notable thing about the tree, you'll notice over here with the footer, I've had to put in this command called clear both, and here's an explanation of what clear both does. Otherwise, the tree and the footer collide. This ends the video midterm.